Thank you, Mr. Chairman Carper, and thank you, Ranking Member Capito, for holding today's hearing. And I want to thank Lieutenant General Spellman and Mr. Connor for joining us here as well. I'm grateful for the improving partnership between my state and the Corps, and hopeful the projects that we can complete moving forward to be able to serve Nebraskans. This March marks the 5 years since the blizzard and flooding that was the most widespread natural disaster in our state's history. As governor at the time, I saw firsthand how this once-in-a-500-year flood claimed lives and caused billions of dollars in damages across my state. And that's why, for me, the #1 priority with the Army Corps is flood prevention. And last year, 10 months ago, you were here and we were discussing the permitting timelines and the outliers. I want to make sure that Nebraskans impacted by mistakes in the past get answers and that we don't make the same mistakes again. And I know the permitting delay, which led to the flooding at Offutt Air Force Base, involved many circumstances, and I appreciate your office getting back to us with some of the information around that, and it certainly demonstrated that there was plenty of opportunity all around to be able to improve that. And I think the Army Corps itself admitted that this was an outlier project. And when we spoke last, you pointed to the fact that Corps districts are given discretion to expedite reviews where appropriate. General Spellman, what steps have you taken to prioritize and ensure the completion of some of these outlier projects? The one I just referenced with Offutt Air Force Base took 6 years to get the permit. What steps have you taken to be able to address some of those outlier projects?
Yeah, sir, I think I can come back to that outlier. I don't believe that one was an outlier. I would disagree with that characterization of it. We are, I mentioned earlier in the hearing that we are taking advantage of funding that you and Congress have given us, particularly in the bipartisan infrastructure law. We have hired an additional 160 regulators for our districts, and we're on our way to 200. So we've got new tools in place, a regulatory viewer system that allows our regulators to make more efficient decisions in the field when they're out there with their partners walking the ground on these respective projects. And as I said, we've done 15,000 Section 404 and Section 10 permits to date this fiscal year. We're up to about 78% on time. That's a slight increase from last year, but we'll take that, and we're going to continue to push on this very important program.
So I'm curious. You said you disagree with the notion that it was an outlier project. My recollection is you've said that most of your permits get done in like 18 months. Isn't that right?
No, sir. So this was a Section 408 request, and we typically turn those around within 90 days. The project you mentioned, I'm sorry, we do tens of thousands of these each year, so I don't have them all committed to memory. This one started in 2010. The applicant brought in an engineering firm. We didn't actually have an application until 2013. In the Omaha district. We received the application. It had a number of technical shortcomings. We received it in May. We gave it back to the applicant in August. Senator, we didn't hear from that applicant again for 2 years. And then we got it back. We were able to get it to
that's
final.
Kind of my point, is that it's an outlier because it's one that took longer than your normal process. Is that not accurate?
An outlier because 5 years of the 6 years you described were with the applicant, not with the Corps.
Right. But, okay, so isn't that an opportunity to be able to get back to the applicant and say, hey, what's taking so long? Can we close this out? That's why I say this took an extraordinary long time. And like I said, there's opportunity on everybody to be able to improve. I think one of the areas the Army Corps could improve is by saying, hey, 2 years is a long time. Are you guys going to respond back to this or not? Can we close this case?
No, sir, you've got it wrong. We were waiting on the applicant to get back with us on the technical questions.
Getting back to the applicant and saying, why haven't you responded back to us? You asked for this permit. Can we shut it down or not?
We did. We got it in May. We returned it around in August. So they did hear back from us, and then they went dry for 2 years.
That's my point. When you have somebody who's in your process flagging that they haven't responded back for 2 years and maybe circling back,
we could potentially look at that, Senator. Absolutely.
That would be one. Either or shutting down the process and saying, hey, we're actually not going forward, and then you can actually take it off of your books. That would help you out as well, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let me shift gears on you just a moment. Following the issue of the final WOTUS rule, did your headquarters give an internal guidance to Corps districts in September of 2023 on implementing the rule, which includes issues on assessing whether certain features like arid west ranges are relatively permanent?
Sir, there's been a series of guidance that has gone out to the field following the 8 September 23 rule from Sackett.
So is this one where you instructed them not to make that guidance public?
I'm not familiar with not making things public, sir. We're working hard to be open and transparent in
Senator,
everything we do.
Yeah.
It's more out of my office.
Okay, please. Yeah.
if
Can
I
you
may.
enlighten me on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. The guidance we provided in September post-Sackett decision was merely to represent how we were going to work through processes of making jurisdictional determinations with our counterparts at EPA. So it's an elevation memo to describe the process because we knew there would be questions coming up. We haven't issued any guidance specifically on more detailed interpretation than what we did in the conforming rule that got published on September 8th.
So help me understand this. So you issued this as internal guidance. Is that accurate?
Internal guidance, but it's out there. It's available for anybody to see. It's published
So
on their
you have
websites.
published this.
Pardon me?
So it is public. You have published it.
That's correct.
And so applicants would have access to this guidance from September 2023 with regard to their application.
It's procedural guidance, but happy to share it with anybody, and I believe it's on the websites.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.